It's that time of year again, the time to milk the Call of Duty franchise for all it's worth. Yet again we find ourselves with a futuristic shooter, but this time there's a crazy twist. It's in outer space. Anyway, I won't rip on the game too much. The single player campaign actually looks pretty good, at least from what I've seen so far. The professional reviews are also mostly positive from what I've seen, though gamers themselves are having fun tearing every aspect of the game to shreds. Quite a few of you have asked for a performance video showing how the current and previous generation AMD and Nvidia GPUs handle this new Call of Duty title. Well, ask and you shall receive. I've tested 23 GPUs on our Core i7 test rig using the latest drivers from both teams. By now I'm sure you guys know the drill, so before we get on with it, here's a quick look at the quality settings used for testing. Essentially we've maxed out every quality setting. SMAA T2X was the anti-aliasing method used, while options that could be set to Ultra and Extreme were. Testing takes place at the start of the Black Sky mission, and well, rather than describe the run, let's just take a look.
ZF is using our Raiders guns to shoot down the fleet.
We have to get to the tower and take back control of the gun. Lay down fire. More targets.
I'm really not sure what's going on lately with AMD and their DirectX 11 performance, but they have been kicking some serious goals. The GTX 960 just managed to deliver what we feel is acceptable performance, while the R9 380 offers a much smoother experience at 1080p. Likewise, the 390 was considerably better than the GTX 970. Even at the top end of the food chain, we see that the Fury X is able to edge out the GTX 980 Ti, allowing it to rub transistors with the Titan X. Moving to 1440p, the R9 390X is required for a 60 FPS average, while Nvidia's GTX 980 averaged 51 frames per second. The GTX 950 and 960 fell away to unplayable frame rates, while the R9 380 and 380X hung in there. Again, the Fury X can be found alongside the 980 Ti and Titan X. The previous generation GPUs struggled at 4K, and while a few quality settings can be downgraded without impacting the visuals too heavily, we recommend gamers look to the current generation lineup for 4K gameplay. Even with the current generation GPUs, we find AMD has a significant performance advantage in this title. The RX 480 easily disposed of the GTX 1060, delivering 10% more performance at 1080p. Meanwhile, the RX 470 was 55% faster than the new GTX 1050 Ti, so a bit of a slaying there then. Although both were very playable, it is crazy to see the GTX 1070 offering just 10% more performance than the RX 480. Those wanting a game at 1440p can do so with the RX 470, 480 or GTX 1060. The 3GB 1060 did dip noticeably lower at times, but issues such as stuttering wasn't seen. Impressively, the RX 480 still averaged over 60 FPS at this resolution. Ideally, gamers will want the GTX 1080 for a smooth 4K gaming experience, and if you can afford it, the Titan XP is naturally the most powerful option here, delivering almost 50% more performance than the GTX 1080. Throwing young and old together, we end up with this mess. The Fury X looks mighty impressive sitting alongside the GTX 1070, and as we previously saw, also the Maxwell Titan X. The RX 470 has no trouble crushing the highly popular GTX 970, while almost matching the GTX 980. At 1440p, we find a few variations in performance. The RX 470 is now able to not just outclass the GTX 970, but also the 980, and by a fairly significant margin I might add. For now, AMD lacks the GPU firepower to fight the 4K battle, and although the Fury X did pull ahead of the GTX 1070, neither is really fast enough here. The GTX 1080 on the other hand scrapes by, while the Titan XP obliterates everything with next level performance. Like Titanfall 2, we find that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare isn't particularly demanding on the CPU. Using our Core i7 6700K test rig, utilization rarely exceeded 30% during both the single player and multiplayer portions of the game. Core i3 users have been reporting high frame rates, and given what we've seen here, I'm not at all surprised. Well, the good news being that gamers won't require a hideously expensive graphics card, such as the fella I have here to my left, to enjoy smooth, consistent playable frame rates at resolutions up to 1440p. The best value option by far looks to be the RX 470, though the GTX 1060 holds its own well enough. Optimization for the current and previous generation GPUs is very impressive, and they really took it to the competing Maxwell and Pascal GPUs. Along with the mild GPU requirements, the game will also run happily on a Core i5 or FX series processor. Of course, we always expected 2016's Call of Duty game to be relatively hardware friendly, given the graphics aren't anything special. Assuming the game was optimized well enough, it was always going to run on mid-range hardware, and thankfully this has been the case. Graphically, the game doesn't look too bad, but it pales in comparison when compared to Battlefield 1, for example. Well, that wraps up our performance coverage of the latest in a long line of Call of Duty games, Infinite Warfare being, the 13th installment now in the series. At this point, you really have to wonder how many times a game can be recycled. So, what do you guys think? Will you be investing your money in this title? I'm very, very keen to hear what you have to say. This has been Steve, bringing you another performance breakdown. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time.